What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Test Your Might, the weekly video game debate show. My name is Mike, and this week we will be discussing the Sony State of Play. We're also talking about Pokémon Violet and Scarlet and our top 5 indie games that you must play now. Stop what you're doing and play them now. But first, let me
if you're like driving, you should probably keep driving. Probably don't stop driving on a highway and play them, I will say.
No, but we only talk to people who have Teslas where they have the huge screens and stuff and can play indie games, you know. Anyway, All right, well, you've heard their voices already. Let me introduce the panel. We got Brian making his return. How you doing, Brian?
Doing all right. Definitely not re-reviewing the State of Play that I super forgot to re-review. That's definitely not happening right now.
Oh, that's okay. And we have Sean. How you doing there, Sean?
Hi, I'm great. I'm looking forward to this reunion of friends, and looking forward to the rest of Pride Month, because you already got your worst two queer folk that you know on the docket. I'm looking to who you got next coming up.
Totally.
It's gonna be mostly me and Cicero and Justin this month, so I don't know. Starting off strong. Anyway, listeners, please leave us a review. We would very much appreciate it. There was no segue to be had there. So, yeah, please leave us a review. We would love if you do that. If you're on Apple iTunes, that is the best place to leave us a review. And if you do so, we would love to read it on the show as well. So just let us know how we're doing. Leave a 5-star rating. We would very, very much appreciate it. If you're on Spotify, they do have a stars rating system on mobile only. So make sure to leave your review there as well. And if you're on YouTube, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, the like button, comment down below. Let us know about this episode. Do all the things. And also, quick heads up. I was doing a little research here, and Sean actually is the catalyst for this research. We have found out that your ability to search for our podcast is very hard. So we just wanted to put a PSA out to the listeners and just say, if you want to search for us quickly, the easiest way actually to do that is What the Fun Pod with no space. If you do that, you'll find us all on YouTube. You'll find us on all the podcatchers of choice as well. So that is the simplest way to reach us on all your content needs, wherever you want to listen to us in the podcast. So yeah, and as well as I haven't mentioned it in a while, but we do have merch. We're not looking to make any money off this merch, but if you would like some of our new new logos on a t-shirt, which they're pretty fun logos, so I really hope you like the change and everything, and you can get them on a t-shirt. So you could support us there as well. Links will be down below. And just another couple things, housekeeping. We've been doing a bunch of Star Wars content for the What the Fun show. So our Obi-Wan review, episodes 1 and 2, are out, and we will be doing a review of episodes 3 and 4 after the 4th episode comes out, and then after the 5th and 6th episode as well. So stay tuned for all of those. And yeah, we're really excited for some of the content that is coming. So, guys, that's it for housekeeping. Thank you for being patient with me. All right. So, question of the day. We are doing a Get to Know You series. And today, today we're talking about favorite sandwiches of all time. What is your favorite sandwich of all time? Sean, go your way first.
Great. I'm glad you're starting with the worst first. I hate all food, so you're getting to know me really well here, everybody. My favorite sandwich is just butter and some cold cut, probably salami, and it's on some French bread. It's pretty much just what I have. Well, except for the French bread part, because that's expensive every single day. I'm easy, I'm cheap. I have no desires for fanciness.
It sounds like a delicious sandwich, though. I'll eat it. I like salami. Salami's good. Yes, I realize that I chose a fun question of the day for Sean. So
Yeah. I was curious if Sean would go with hot dog. I was curious if they would open that Pandora's box.
I was wondering
just
if we
for
were
the sake
gonna
of chaos.
Yeah, exactly. I was wondering if we were gonna start with that debate as well. I mean, this is a debate show. Brian, what's your favorite sandwich of all time?
I was going to say taco to be a complete and utter heel, but the actual answer is a Cubano by far. They're really mellow. They go with like pretty much anything as a sandwich. And I really enjoy Cuban bread because of that extra fat content. Just makes it really kind of almost melty and gives it like a really nice velvety feel. So yeah, Cubano for me is favorite sandwich.
There you go. My favorite sandwich is at this restaurant called Broadway Diner, and it is a grilled mac and pork sandwich. So it's barbecue pulled pork with mac and cheese on it and caramelized onions. Brian, did you have that sandwich when you visited one time? I feel like you did. Maybe you didn't.
I went there. I don't know if I had that sandwich.
Okay. I know both of you guys. We went to that restaurant. I'm pretty sure, but yeah, grilled mac and pork.
You were
delicious.
there, Sean. I do remember.
Yes.
I do not remember what you had, but you were there. So.
Yeah. Well, I think he had French toast. I think he had breakfast because that's yeah,
probably true.
All right. Yeah. What have you been playing, guys? That's what's up next. So, Brian, go your way first.
Yeah. So, as I say every single episode, because it is a game that is just a part of my life now, playing Destiny 2. Was literally playing that earlier with Sean, actually. We're in the same guild, clan, whatever the term is in that game. And then I've also been playing Citizen Sleeper recently, which is on Game Pass. So, it's been really good so far. It's visual novel meets RPG meets worker placement game, like the tabletop variety.
Yeah.
It's really good. It has that thing of those kind of games where it's like, oh, I can just do one more turn. Like I was playing it last night and I was like, I'm just going to play it a bit. I'm not going to stay up all night. And it's like, oh, it's 1:30 in the morning. I should probably sleep. Because I just kept being like, well, I can just do one more turn. I can just do one more cycle. I can just place a few more dice to see what happens. So I've been playing those two recently.
So Sean has brought this game up, and I've also seen, people praise its systems and stuff like that. So you're telling me the dice are like worker placement? It's basically worker placement?
Essentially, yeah. It's every morning you wake up with like, I have X amount of dice of like potential energy to do things. And so like 6s are guaranteed successes, 4 and 5s are like probably successes. And then 1 to 3 is like, this is a crap bit of energy that like is probably not going to be very good at whatever you're trying to succeed at. And so it's a lot of kind of trying to raise clocks and keep clocks down and get clocks higher, using those dice.
This is becoming a download. I'm gonna go.
It's also like, it is Pride Month. It is a queer designer. So go support small populations that are just trying to pay rent, which is also what the game is about in a real way. So,
All
right, Sean, what have you been playing?
Also on the Destiny train, but enough about that. I have been forsaking.
You guys are becoming the new Joe, just Apex. Every week, but instead it's Destiny.
Yeah, instead of talking about Destiny,
Joe.
I'm going to talk about how I found religion and am forsaking the weakness of flesh. In the far future of Warhammer 40k Mechanicus. It is a turn-based tactics game. It's not the XCOM 40k like Warhammer game, but that is like looking into that is how I ended up here.
Yeah.
You basically play like a faction of future humans who are grafting themselves into technology, and you've landed on this place that is overtaken by aliens that like you're always the whole regime is constantly trying to like, well, we need to know things about them to like beat them, but also knowing things about them is inherently evil and bad, and we should never do that. So you got to like kind of play the struggle between that and also like command some like hero like troops, ex-enemy troops through some dungeons, and then you go like on missions and you get a couple different smaller fights than XCOM would have, and like on your way to them you have little like story vignettes that are okay. They're not like super great. The like tactics and like making the characters is pretty good though, so I've been having a good time with it.
It is also 80% off right now on
true.
Steam.
The reason I got
so
it,
you can buy it for $5.
Yeah, the reason I got it is because it was $5, and I had just gotten a really big recommendation about it.
There you go. That Warhammer like XCOM game looked interesting. I watched the review of that, and that seemed to get some high praise from some of the reviewers. But the Warhammer stuff just never has enticed me. I don't know. It's just
this is my first. So.
If you ever want to have someone who got too into that trash in high school and knows too much about it, I can just speak forth lore from that universe. Which is messy, but always up for that conversation.
Maybe another time. Yeah, so that's interesting. Glad you found that. I'm glad you're having a good time. So I beat Umurangi Generation.
Woo! You beat out Taylor.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty fascinating game. It's a quick game. It's a puzzle game, and it's a puzzle photography game, which is kind of cool. I just didn't. I leaned towards the obvious. Obviously, I leaned towards the puzzle element to it. Instead of like the photo side to it, because they actually do have a decently in-depth like photo mode and just creating the type of photos that you want within this world, and quite an interesting art style as well. So yeah, it definitely created some good moments, some good photos. There were some like, man, there were a couple of the bounties I had to do for the last couple missions. I just put on my wide lens and just like took a chance. And just like took a picture and got some of the things that I needed to in order to finish the mission. But then I realized, when realizing like what bounty I unlocked with taking that one stock, just random wide angle photo, like I saw the actual bounty. So I'm like, oh, okay. So at least my randomness was actually validated by me actually seeing what I was supposed to take a photo of. So, but I haven't played the DLC content, which is included in the Game Pass version. So, I'll probably be going back to that, but something has got a hold of my heart, and it's doing the same thing that the first game in this dang trilogy did, and that's Mass Effect 2. Like I am thinking nothing other than playing Mass Effect 2. Like I just, it's so good. Like obviously I'm very early in the game. I just have gotten all of my helpers, my crew. I've got your crew, yeah. I've done all the missions to get my crew. And so Jack, like, she's interesting. And I there's probably a decision that you could have saved the Dr. Krogan, but he's dead, and I got the clone instead. So I don't. So we'll see if the clone. I haven't woken up the clone yet because it kind of went straight into an actual like story mission with Caden, but I'm assuming that it wouldn't be Caden if I didn't kill the very
Ashley?
racist woman
Yeah.
in the first Mass Effect. So I'm assuming it would have been Ashley, but so that's kind of interesting. So you know, some threads are coming back in, and
Mhm.
you know, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. I wish I could still control my health like you could in Mass Effect 1. Like you could just press the up on the D-pad and heal.
Metagel,
Whereas
yeah.
versus this, it's, you know, you have to allow the metagel to heal you over time. So that's still my one biggest gripe with Mass Effect 2. But other than that, I also haven't, you know, full disclosure, very privileged, I understand this, but I've also haven't pulled up Mass Effect 2, the Legendary Edition, on my new TV and my Series X yet. So, and it looks brilliant. It looks awesome. Love playing it in this like high fidelity. Just it's a really good experience. So,
Yeah, I would say 2 is honestly the best in the series. They do a really good job getting the feel of kind of like the Ocean's 11 putting together a crew for a heist energy. And I think that's probably one of the strongest things about number 2 is that particular like feel and experience.
That's what I really liked about those missions, is that like the purpose of going on those missions to get somebody to just be a part of your team. Like that was a lot of fun. So I'm still looking forward to getting what's her face back as well.
Liara Sony?
What?
Liara Sony. I'm just going over different female characters.
Yeah, that
okay.
one. So yeah, well, I know she's off doing her own thing, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's what I've been playing. Awesome. Nice. Let's get into the news there. So the biggest news of the week was the Sony State of Play. Obviously, it had been on June 2nd. Had a lot of interesting reveals. And so, yeah, we'll kind of go through just like everything that was announced as quickly as we can and like go through some of the highlights. Yeah, really excited about... You know, kind of really excited about a lot of the things that they did announce. And so, let's start it off here. I'm just going through IGN's article here, so shout out to them. But, this is not in the order of the announcement, so just going, they start off with the biggest hitter of the conference, or of the State of Play, and that was Final Fantasy 16. Will be released in summer 2023. I mean, did we really expect like this to even be close to this year?
Yeah, I feel like because 15 came out a bit ago, and in general, Square isn't a studio that does like the massive delay game as much. So I'm not surprised per se. I think they already had a pretty heavy work from home complement like from the beginning, and so in that way COVID probably didn't hit their workflow as much.
I was listening to some other podcasts and they were like, you know, that this is the type of date where they've already built in their delay. Like summer 2023, their delay is already there, and they're probably confident to get it out in the summer, but I wouldn't be surprised if it even gets delayed another time. You know, that's just the world that we live in now. So Sean, Final Fantasy 16, there is a PS5 in your house, so you would be able to play this. Any interest?
Maybe. I dabble in Final Fantasy, but I was looking at, like, when I was watching the trailer, I was just struck by, like, it looked too, like, human, like, too medieval fantasy for me. And, like, Final Fantasy kind of touches that, but, like, for some reason I was looking at it going, like, I want this to be more, like, fantasy as fantasy. We'll see what happens.
Okay. Yeah.
The summons look sick though.
Yeah.
So.
If I'm incorrect, please correct me. But this is sort of based in the world of Final Fantasy XIV, correct? So which is more of a medieval swing to it. Am I correct in saying that?
I got zero idea.
All right, cool. All right,
I can't prove you wrong, so we're just gonna say probably.
I
right,
just
cool.
told you I dabble. I'm not gonna MMO about it.
Oh, okay. Whoa! Didn't realize we were verbing that that phrase. Anyway, verbing's not a word. Resident Evil 4 remake officially announced.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, this is my favorite Resident Evil of all time. Played it first on the GameCube, so I'm excited. I'm really stoked for this. And I always think it's funny, like, you know, listeners, you probably know this by now, but we are more of Xbox family over here, but we love the PlayStation side as well still. But I think it's always funny that like PlayStation in these state of plays it off as all of these like games are exclusive to them. It's just like you have to look through, you know, Twitter posts and stuff like that to realize that Resident Evil 4 is also coming to Xbox, guys. Like, even though Sony doesn't want you to know that. Resident Evil 4, Sean, thoughts? You excited?
Maybe. I mean, just like you, I played RE4 on GameCube, and then I also played it on Wii. Beat it both times and played a bunch of Mercenaries. Was that the other mode?
Wii?
Yeah. Well,
I heard the Wii was a very good version.
it was good, and it had the extra PlayStation 2 stuff that I don't remember what it was, but it was there, and I was happy. I love that game. I don't know. I mean, I might play it. I feel like my roommate might get it, and then I'd definitely play it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Resident Evil 4 is extremely replayable, and you know they did remaster it for the Xbox One era and the PS4 era as well. So I mean, definitely go play that. It's probably like $10 to $20 at this point. You a huge Resident Evil guy, Brian?
I wasn't as a kid. I am more now because I've gotten more into horror as I got older. What I'm intrigued by is the last few times I've done remasters, they've not just been like, you know, a facelift. It's been like actually trying to update gameplay. And I'm honestly kind of curious to see, especially as they get later in the series, where the gameplay is going to be closer to like the baseline contemporarily, to see like what they do to update that, to see if they do any like thematic updating, right? Because as Resident Evil gets in like 4 and especially 5, there were some design and narrative choices that were a little messy. And I'm curious to see what they do with some of those thematics there, to see to what degree they're willing to make changes narratively.
I certainly trust them. Like RE2 and the RE3 remakes have been extremely well received. So yeah, those are games that I'm definitely going to be playing here in the near future because I have not dabbled in them yet. But all right, Resident Evil Village is getting the VR treatment, so there was that. Street Fighter 6 first gameplay trailer was shown. It is coming out in 2023. That's what they gave as a release window. This is made in that RE engine, actually, so they're utilizing that, and we'll wink wink, that's a foreshadow to later in the podcast. But anyway, Street Fighter 6. We as Xbox gamers are allowed to play this one. It is coming to Xbox this time because Street Fighter 5 was a PlayStation exclusive. Guys, we're not really I mean, me and Sean dabbled in Injustice and Mortal Kombat a little bit, but not really fighting game people, right?
I follow the tournaments. I'm not good enough to play in them, is what I would say. So like I enjoy like watching people who are good at fighting games, but that ain't me.
Sean, Street Fighter 6?
I'm not good enough at fighting games, and I don't watch sports, so.
All right, moving on. Horizon Call of the Mountain had a really cool trailer, VR. we're not. PSVR 2 is going to have a lot of good stuff coming out, and so yeah, I'm looking at that when we see it. Have you guys dabbled in VR too much?
Not a ton. Like my room isn't big enough for that. Really, I would like fall over my bed. So VR is a bit impractical for my living situation, I would say.
We played Keep Talking, No One Explodes once at a friend's place.
Yes.
And that was a good time. That's as far as I've gotten VR-wise, personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I played Super Hot, and I played Gran Turismo on Justin's PlayStation VR, and Gran Turismo, I had to shut it off. I got motion sickness right away. So yeah, it was just like VR just does not interest me. So it's just all of these cool games though. Like I would love to try like Half-Life Alyx or something. And even this Horizon stuff looked amazing, looked really fun. But I feel like I would just get motion sickness, you know? All right, Horizon Forbidden West gets a major update as well, which includes a new game plus. So one of the best games of this year. Dead Space creator is coming out with a new game, the Callisto Protocol. Guys, this looked pretty intense.
It looked nice and spoopy. I'm excited for it. You know, spoopy season's coming up, so yeah, like I've become a much bigger fan of horror over time, and so I'm actually excited to see Dead Space work with a new IP. It's like that particular developer group has some overlap from the original, and so I'm excited to see kind of just what they do with a fresh canvas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be released December 2nd, and Sean, this was originally supposed to take place in the PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds universe.
Really?
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a game.
Everything's now just related to everything
That's
else.
true.
It's the Marvel universe we all live in.
Yeah, but they since nixed that. It is its own story now and stuff like that. So, yeah, awesome. You guys into cats?
I'm very excited for Stray.
Yeah.
Because Stray is coming out.
Yep. It's an Annapurna project. It's going to be, if not good, at least interesting, is like the promise of everything Annapurna puts out. So
Yeah, that's true. I was excited. That Stray trailer got me to look. I knew I had some other cat games in my library that I hadn't played yet. So it got me to play Cat in the Coup, which I bought like 5 years ago, and just didn't play at all. But it was like a quick 10-minute story about about an Iranian assassination of like one of their like really beloved presidents. But it was a good time. So Stray's already done good things for me. I wanted to do more.
Yeah, I mean,
Nice.
it's made you play more cat games,
Exactly.
which is good. So yeah. Again, are you planning on playing this Stray game?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's cool is that it is releasing into the PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium tiers for the new PlayStation Plus revamp. So that's kind of cool. I think it's really cool for consumers that not only on the Xbox side, but now you have on the PlayStation side where they could get these like story beats and these marketing things about like, hey, this game is coming day one to PlayStation Plus, and you guys get to play it right away. So it's really fun.
it is also 10% off if you pre-order on Steam right now.
There you go. Speaking of PC, Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered and Miles Morales are coming to PC in this year. Yeah, it's just so interesting that PlayStation will just release a couple games on PC and they're like, oh, like there's a market there for all these, single player experiences that could be modded and all that. And so very interesting that Spider-Man is coming to PC. I thought it was funny that a lot of the after the state of play, there was this tweet from Insomniac Games that recircled and was retweeted by everybody that Insomniac was like, it will never come to PC. And it was quite a funny day. So
yeah, that's what happens when a much bigger company owns your company.
Yeah.
Is you don't make that decision anymore.
Spider-Man is amazing. I have Miles Morales. Justin bought it for me for my birthday, so I have to still play that. But man, was Spider-Man the original really fun. So, all right, No Man's Sky is also getting PlayStation VR 2 support. Season, A Letter to the Future, will be released in autumn 2022. This is a console exclusive. Is this the one where you could hold R2 to hold hands? Or is that Eternights? there was memes going around Twitter about holding R2 to hold hands.
Yeah, Letter to the Future is an indie game, so that sounds about appropriate. That would be a thing. But also Eternights is a dating sim, so I could see it being there too. I didn't catch that being in the trailer. So
probably that then. All right, The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners Chapter 2, PlayStation VR 2 stuff. A futuristic skater shooter called Rollerdrome skates to PS4 and PS5 this fall.
I'm excited for that. It looks it's very much pulling like that whole roller derby energy. So I'm excited to see kind of what gamification of that looks like.
And then finally, Tunic. Tunic makes its way over to PlayStation, which is really awesome. Tunic is my game of the year so far.
Dang.
So yeah, I mean, more players to get to play this wonderful indie game. And Sean, you beat Tunic, right?
No, I never beat the final boss.
Oh, well, get to that, please.
I don't see this happening. I think it's gonna go in the box with Sekiro, where I got the final boss, and I was like, okay, that's good. I love both games. I love both of those games, but I just don't want to put in
that
the
does
effort.
sometimes happen.
Yeah.
I will admit there are games where I'm like 98% complete, and I'm like, I never finished on that.
Man, you guys are describing my Batman Arkham Knight. I get so far into that game, and then
That game's just so
bam.
many lists to check. Like so much checklisting to do in that game.
There's so much time that I just don't have. Anywho, Sean, favorite announcement from the state of play here, and then we'll get into Test Your Might.
I'm gonna say Stray. Although Seasons is kind of a close second for that.
Okay. All right. Got Cats at number 1 for Sean. Brian, favorite announcement from State of Play?
Yeah, I would say the Stray one, but Sean already did it. So instead, I'm actually going to throw a bit of a curveball and say Eternights. I think it is really interesting to see a dating sim get like prime focus at one of these. I don't think that's really happened in like a US one of these, even though it's a huge genre in Japan and it's a huge genre in the indie scene here. And so seeing like dating sims get more like widespread popularity or at least attention is an interesting thing for me. And so kind of not Eternights in and of itself, but what its presence in this means for like the industry as a whole is a lot more interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just the overall attention to indie games is good. So yeah, I mean, it's tough that, sometimes they don't take the spotlight at some of these, small showcases that Sony puts on or even Xbox or Nintendo does. But, when they come out, some of them are big hits. So, these Eternights, the rollerblading one, Stray is sort of an indie game as well, even though it seems like it has a higher budget. Like, yeah, some of them are going to get some shining moments in the sun. So, mine's Resident Evil 4 remake, 100%. Just super excited about that one. Yeah, I think I think Capcom is sort of in a renaissance period right now, because like they were in that super lull, and then Resident Evil 2 came out, and then Monster Hunter World came out. So like I think they've been killing it recently. All right, it's time for Test Your Might. Let's get into the namesake of the show. I'm excited for some of these baits, guys. You two, I have wrote them out earlier today, and I think it's gonna be a fun time. So, all right, Joe, if you're listening to me, we need some images here for the editing to throw up on our YouTube video. So, Pokemon Violet and Scarlet legendaries were revealed. Corroidon and Miraidon. Sorry if I mispronounced those, respectively. So, guys, pull up pictures, because you will need the pictures here for this one.
Foolish of you to assume I haven't already memorized them.
Pokemon types and rules do not apply to this.
They've not been announced anyways, so you're good.
You can tell.
There's options, I would say.
One's psychic, one's fire, but regardless. Maybe.
Strong disagree.
Yeah,
One's
I also
powerful. It
disagree.
could be psychic. Wait, what do you think they are?
I mean, my dude has lightning bolt eyebrows,
And tail,
so
yeah,
I'm gonna go with...
He's floating with the power lightning, or they're floating with the power lightning. They also have a trend of, like, you probably wouldn't know
and
this.
jets.
They have like a trail of making like darker and like more purpley, like electric things recently. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm all
Could
for
be
that.
steel potentially too, because it's got fighter jet parts essentially built into
Well,
it.
regardless, we're not debating types. Just looking at them alone, physical appearance alone, who wins in a fight? You guys are both technically guest co-hosts. So who goes first? We're going to go with Brian first, because he's more of a guest, because Sean is a little more regular on the show. So, Brian, you get to choose first, which means that Sean will automatically get the other one. Who are you choosing?
I'm going with Miraidon, which is the one on the right if you're watching the trailer, slash like the usual image that's been used for it. Also,
Joe, put this Pokemon on the right. On the video.
Yes. So I'm not sure if you know this from the trailer or anything, but what they're kind of going for theme-wise with this one is one legendary / one professor is like future-themed, and one is past-themed. And so Miraidon is the future-themed one, hence having a jet engine legs. And so for me, the reason that Miraidon, if this were like, a drag-out fight without Pokemon rules, would win, is that he's partially, or they are at least partially built on the concept of like a war jet. And so essential to their being is the ability to commit war crimes. They are the military industrial complex made living, fundamentally. And historical eras, there were ideas like, honor in fighting. You didn't just, drone strike people. Miraidon is from the energy in the era in which, you just drone strike people. You don't, give them heads up that, we're going to war or anything. And so in a fight, I just think Miraidon is likely to, take out that other Pokemon before they even are aware there's a fight going on. They seem more likely to play dirty in that way.
Sean. Corridon.
Yeah. So, so the thing that people don't typically understand about real world evolution, is that survival of the fittest means that you're just fit to your environment, and the fact that Corridon is the representation of the past and has somehow made it the millennia to the future means that it is supremely fit for just infinite amounts of environments, including the battlefield it's going to be on with Miraidon. I think you're making some assumptions about the honor, which I can get. It's got the furry top. It is kind of going for that warrior aesthetic, but I would say a key component of this design here is that throat wheel. I just think that Miraidon's gonna get Newmaned in Jurassic Park. Like, you think that Corydon's gonna just be all honorable and stuff, and he's gonna spit some acid in your face, you're gonna blind, you're gonna be dead. That's it.
Okay. Some brownie points for Newman. Okay. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, I get it. Acid spit, real intimidating. Thankfully, we've invented windshield wipers, which I'm sure are built somewhere into my friend here. Just wipe that right off. But I think what you're being a little optimistic about is this sort of like very, we'll say, general view of survival of the fittest. Because if it were the fittest, it would be a crab, is the thing. Like, it is beyond well known, the most efficient life forms all basically end up as crabs. That ain't a crab. And so it is clearly not built for the most environments. You either end up as a crab or a bug. Like, that's basic evolutionary, like where we're at with evolutionary research. So I don't think that's true. And if you're looking at it being, again, more pulling from like T-Rexes, like, we don't have T-Rexes today. So maybe it got pulled from the past because that's a very Pokemon thing to do. But I think you're making some assumptions about the durability of its current presence that I think you don't have evidence for. In the same way that I have an evidence for war crimes.
Sean, rebuttal.
I mean, if we're gonna go to this one, I wasn't saying it was the most fit, but if we're gonna go with this whole crab thing which you have introduced, Corydon's way closer to a crab than the Miraidon could ever hope to be. Especially if we're looking at Pokemon type crabs, it's got the some of the like head situation going on. It's red, obviously that's super important. It's got more of an ability to be aquatic going on in there between like the thinning of the feet and the toes and such. And having a bunch of like stuff on the back, I think it's just closer to a crab situation. So if we're going based on a crab criteria, Corydon's got it.
Final rebuttal, Brian.
Yeah. As a quick side note, I think we both know if it were really to come down to it, Lechonk would kick both of our butts because Lechonk is perfect and the entire crowd will support them. But going to the actual debate we're having, we're talking evolutionary. The ultimate evolution is crab. That doesn't include for things like technology fundamentally, right? That's why humans control the planet more than crabs do at this point. And at the end of the day, as much as humanity has done irreparable damage to the planet, it is undeniable that we have fundamentally dominated it in pretty negative ways. And in ways that is coming back to bite us, for sure. But, like, crabs are dope, but also crabs don't survive a knife missile.
A knife missile. Okay, Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, so, again, you're opening opportunities for me here. You were talking about the mistakes that humanity has made with their technology. Corydon and crabs are playing the long game. Miraidon and humans are going to end up self-extincting themselves. In some form or another, they're going to make mistakes, and they're going to end their own lives, and Corydon and the crabs and all their brethren are going to keep lasting on. That's just how it goes.
Well, this is a fight I did not foresee. Way too many crabs. Anyway, I think I'm going with Brian on this one. I think that they had the knife missile and just like the playing dirty type thing that you didn't. I don't think, Sean, you battled too heavily. So I think Brian takes this one. All right.
Knife missiles and one hit KO. That's all that matters for that argument.
Yeah, sure.
Also, knife missiles, very bad. Do not be a fan of them.
All right, Brian takes the point. 1-0. Next debate topic. Capcom has announced the Street Fighter 6 game. Wow, I can't read. Capcom has announced that Street Fighter 6 is being made in the RE engine, which is the engine from the most recent remakes of the Resident Evil game, RE7 and RE8. So, what game franchise could benefit the most from using the RE engine? Now, by the way, listeners, the RE engine is highly praised for its realistic graphics and fidelity and gameplay and stuff like that. So that is why that's what brings the context to this argument. So Sean, we'll go losers out. Sean, what would be your choice? Would you like to go first or second?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Alright, so clearly the game here, the whole point of, like, the RE engine is that you're funneling Capcom games through it, because of their engine. So I looked at their catalog and immediately remembered that Dragon's Dogma is a thing, and it needs to be a thing again, and it could benefit from all of the positives of the RE engine, while not really caring about the potential negatives of the RE engine, as, you know, the fans of Capcom games have stated so far.
Dragon's Dogma. Brian?
All right. Fun fact: Dragon's Dogma. There are a lot of rumors the sequel's being created in RE Engine already. So your hopes may come true. My hopes probably will not, because I also looked at the Capcom catalog, and you went with realistic possibilities, and I went with why would they do this possibilities, because that is a part of the Capcom energy at points. And in 1989, there was a Capcom game called Buster Brothers. The tagline for this game on all the advertising is "They're hunting balls and bagging profits." In this game, the player must finish a round-the-world quest to destroy bouncing balloons that are terrorizing Earth landmarks all across major cities. The fight to save the other starts on Mount Fuji and makes its way all throughout other famous landmarks on the planet. A horror energy that we have not seen in a game yet is that of the birds, which is an airborne, fairly normal thing, becomes an absolute nightmare. And Capcom has one of those in their catalog, in which it is murder balloons. In this game, you also fought murder balloons using harpoons and machine guns. And so the viscerality that Ari is capable of doing could be expressed well with harpoons and machine gun for sure. And so while this is not the realistic target, I think it would be a heck of an experience to play Buster Bros in Ari's engine.
Sean, rebuttal.
I can't believe you pulled out viscerality on me. You're serious about this conversation.
Yeah, bringing out all the stops.
For real. Alright, so I alluded. Well, first of all, I gotta contend that there haven't been Nightmare Birds. I mean, just recently we had Elden Ring. We had there was a Metal Slug game where you played a bird with a bunch of weird birds happening already. So I am on the bird train, but I don't think we're lacking those birds. But anyway, so the thing is, Buster Brothers sounds like a lot of fun, but I think it will hit the detraction of the bad things about the engine that people see so far, which is that people hate the faces. And I think if you're going to have a game focused on brothers, focused on a family, you're going to need the emotionality. You're going to have the funness of the thing, but you got to recognize these brothers and see them as people that you can relate to and want them to succeed against these horrible nightmare birds. And I'm not saying you need to have a pretty protagonist. I referenced Elden Ring to fight these murder birds before, and I've only made monsters with FromSoft creations. About half monsters, half people. Yeah. But with Dragon's Dogma, what we have is you kind of already have, as opposed to having great pixel faces before, hand drawn box art before. Dragon's Dogma already had kind of ugly people, in just kind of a beautiful world that could have used a lot of touching up to have all of its various systems going, while also having a great coat of paint. And everything I'm reading about the goods of this RE engine is that it can have a lot of those, it can do all of this background processing and stuff while also having all those systems go by. And Dragon's Dogma is a game where everyone that loves it loves the systems and loves the way that, the world, which will now be even more beautiful, interacts with itself and with you.
Brian, rebuttal.
Well, first of all, the faces thing isn't a problem because the protagonist of Buster Brothers wears a helmet over their face the entire time. So thankfully, that's not a problem. Also, just to remind you, it's not birds, it's balloons. Very important there. There are no games with murder balloons thus far.
Balloons. Oh,
Balloons,
there's a
yes.
famous franchise. There's a famous franchise about murder balloons.
But it's not a horror one, right? I was saying specifically in horror as a genre.
Whoa, switching the genre of Buster Bros?
Well, clearly you're going to do a remake. Like, they did that with the various Resident Evil remakes, you know. They're reinventing as part of their remake process. And so I think they should just go all the way with this.
Okay.
I do think Dragon's Dogma, again, is interesting. I think one of the big challenges with Dragon's Dogma is, frankly, how poorly that Netflix show did. I think, like, Dragon's Dogma has, like, a devoted cult following. It doesn't have a devoted large following. And so, like, I could see, again, they can take advantage of, like, the background processing. Dragon's Dogma, the way the world interacts with itself is really interesting, but that's actually not processing heavy. It's the kind of background operations it's doing is not the sort of, like, high process stuff you see with, like, the Crusader Kings, right? Which is kind of more like the multi-stream processing they're talking about with this engine wouldn't need to be used as much there. Potentially having the addition of aerial enemies could actually, programming-wise, having, like, extra planes things can be on actually require a lot more processing power. And so the balloons attacking the world would be a good one for that, as well as because of the higher graphics fidelity, you then get to show off those graphics with all these, like, Mount Fuji and Eiffel Tower and Taj Mahal. You get to kind of take these iconic locations and give them a really nice graphics treatment, which, for example, is why a lot of people play even the Assassin's Creed games, right? They want to see these historical locations, these major locations, and kind of be there, especially in a world in which travel is infinitely more complicated due to COVID.
Sean, final rebuttal.
Yeah, I can't... You're talking about these background processes and then noting aerial enemies. Dragon is in the dang name of Dragon's Dogma. Those things fly. They've got wyverns. They have a whole bunch of flying enemies that they're doing. But I want to also go... I actually am no longer thinking about this. I want to make the argument that we already have the balloon horror enemies. Tower defense games are horror. There's nothing more horrific to the American mind than an invasion, and all tower defense games interact with that reality. So I don't think that your Buster Bros is actually bringing anything new to the table in that respect. And furthermore, to hit your first point with your latest statement was that Dragon Dogma has to come back from that poor Netflix experience, and what we're talking about here is which franchise could benefit the most from it. And I think a beloved to few game, a cult classic, could benefit the most from having another opportunity to show itself to the wider masses.
Brian, final rebuttal.
Yeah. That same argument works even better for mine, in that mine has an even smaller niche, right? And so if we're saying, like, it could benefit the most, well, the thing that could benefit the most is a game that hasn't had an existence since 1989, since before I was born, right? If we're talking about, like, what has the biggest, like, franchise coming back, or in this case, practically coming into existence. Because, again, we haven't had Buster Bros since then. Also, weird fact, Buster Bros, single protagonist, maybe not the best naming, might have been part of the problem. I think Dragon's Dogma is likely to happen eventually either way, right? I think it is almost a foregone eventuality, and thus I don't think pushing for it or hoping for it in, like, trying to shape the world with our hopes and dreams is as potent as trying to, like, you know, wish and dream for something that is a lost story, right? A lost narrative. I think Buster Bros has that going for it, where it would be a real, you know what, we're just going for it energy in a way that could be actually better for the industry as well, which has a tendency to stick with tried and true.
And time. All right. Very good points on both sides. Murder Balloons, classic. You know, it's just hilarious. I think Sean got you on this one. I think he had a couple hits, bringing up the Elden Ring birds and, flying things and stuff like that. And dragons already flying. Tower defense games are already horror, I like Sean's argument a little bit better here. Okay.
Fair.
We are going to the next one. Let's have some fun with this one here. Undertale creator Toby Fox is composing music for Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. Undertale soundtrack is fantastic. If you have not listened to it, please take some time to listen to it after the podcast, of course. So what composer would you like to see take on another franchise? So take a composer, maybe a composer you don't know by name, but look him up really quick. Based on the franchise that you enjoy, and put him in a different franchise. All right, losers out. Brian, you are first. Would you like to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. I have someone at hand, so I'm good.
All right, go ahead.
And I blanking on their personal name, but I do know their Twitter handle and what they often go by as well in credits. So I'm just going to use that. We spoke about Umurangi Generation previously, and that game has an incredible soundtrack. And the creator of that soundtrack goes by Thor High Heels. They are I believe, Dutch or Danish musician. I don't remember offhand which one. I apologize if on a random chance they're listening. Great soundtrack.
Yeah, they're weekly listeners of Test Your Might.
Right. In the same way that we are talking about an indie dev and indie music composer getting into a major Nintendo product, I think what would be really cool is seeing what Thor High Heels does with the next Kirby game. I think the like funky kind of energy could work really well, especially now that Kirby has had an urban adventure in the most recent game, which is kind of already in the ruins of a city. I think future games having more of those kind of locations where that kind of more funky vibe would be super appropriate, would be great. And in terms like it has a bit of that 8-bit energy already, and then on top of that, Kirby has actually had a bit of a funk era previously. In an Epic Yarn, I believe it was, Halberd is very much a jazz song. And so they've already done really good work with that kind of energy in their music. And so I think Thor High Heels would be a great composer to kind of elevate to the next Kirby project's music.
All right, Sean.
Yeah, I love the Thor High Heels pull. I'm gonna go for I also considered them, but I'm gonna go with Danny Baranowski. He did the Crypt of the Necrodancer music. He also he's probably most well known for that, but he also did stuff like Super Meat Boy and Binding of Isaac.
Okay.
And I'm also going to keep it in the Nintendo realm. Nintendo's got just like great music and a great history on this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he's already worked with Nintendo once with the Cadence of Hyrule situation. So he's like familiar with the at least one of the studios. But I want to pull him to work on a Donkey Kong Country. One, because those games, I love them, talk about them all the time. But two, he has shown the breadth of genres that he can do, between even just Crypt of the Necrodancer and Binding of Isaac. You have a ton of different like variety within the music. Crypt of the Necrodancer itself is all about music, and for each of its 5 different stages, like worlds or whatever have very different vibes. It's kind of like you have to always be keeping to the beats playing the game, but it goes from like general adventure stuff to like a pretty chill like swampy vibe, to like dueling songs between fire and ice that like kind of get really elemental in a really cool way. And then every single boss is based on a genre of music, so in addition to all of these like keep 'em up beats, you also have like hip hop and metal and all that stuff. And what I really want out of all that is to mesh with the great music that the Donkey Kong Country series has already had, and I just really want to hear his take on an underwater level, because those are always so good.
Are you being sarcastic?
For the music, no. For Donkey Kong Country 1, those levels are great, underwater levels, but also the music is pretty good.
Oh, okay.
Like consistently good there. Yeah.
Because not a lot of people like underwater levels. Just saying.
Donkey Kong did it better than most, I will say.
For Donkey Kong, yeah, Donkey Kong does it. Yeah.
All right, Thor High Heels, next Kirby game. Well, let's hear a little more.
Yeah, so I think, like, again, Sean, you brought up a great, like, in the best of all possible worlds, which I don't think we live in, but even in a better world, I think both these people, like, would get elevated to that kind of level, right? They're both amazing musicians. Like, they both do really good work. I think in some ways, the wideness of musical themes from yours seems a bit out of line with Donkey Kong, which doesn't usually have that degree of variety in its musical motifs. Donkey Kong isn't like Kirby, where they've done a bunch of different musical genres throughout their series as much. It's been pretty unified historically, at least in the like 7 or 8 I've played. And so I think in some ways your person might actually be better for Kirby than for Donkey Kong, right? Because Kirby has done that kind of from zone to zone you change energy. I do think Thor High Heels also has the extra benefit of having had a more recent indie darling. Crypt of the Necrodancer was like a good game, but it did not get the kind of press reception. It did not get the kind of like immediate response like, oh, this is an indie classic that Thor High Heels work did, right? And so if this was like 10 years ago, right, when Binding of Isaac had just happened, right, I think that would be more of an argument for like going to that person. But I think if we're looking at like who's recently been doing work that's been getting popularity, I think Thor High Heels is just more contemporary. And Nintendo is kind of known for like, if we're going to get a big name, it's one who's popular now. Especially in the more Japanese markets, where when they do tend to get like pop stars and stuff, it tends to be more contemporary ones. They don't usually go back to like the older well there.
Go on.
Just to immediately go off, like Nintendo just hired like Cadence of Hyrule came out a year before Muromi Generation. It hasn't been quite as long as you're implying here. Also, he's working on Intersuit of Titan, which is in early access right now. But anyway, I think you have a point about the world kind of having and Donkey Kong being a little more consistent than Crypt of the Necrodancer. But the things that but there's 2 points here. One, Danny has shown that he can do a lot of like variety within like a very focused genre with Binding of Isaac. A lot of that is just that like that Binding of Isaac has a very specific flavor, and Danny Baranowski did great work like sticking that flavor and getting people to play. You know, he's working with a lot of roguelike, which is you're playing the same thing over and over and over, and you gotta not be tired of this music that's happening for you. And a lot of like platforms, especially ones that call back to like earlier Nintendo eras, you're kind of repeating levels for various reasons, if it's collectibles or you can't make that jump, etc. So having like consistent music that also you won't get tired of is a big plus there. But then where the variety does come in is that it's not necessarily between worlds, but it's between the types of level that you're playing. So Donkey Kong Country, yeah, a lot of the like world themes are all the same, but then what you have going is you have your jungle level and you have your underwater level, which is a very different vibe. And then, most importantly, you have your minecart levels, which are an entirely different vibe, with that frenetic energy that also we can, of course, see from Crypt and like boss fights and Binding by Isaac and such as that.
I think I've heard enough. I'm calling it. All right. Man, tough decision. I think Brian got you a little bit too much there on some of his kicks versus your kickbacks. I don't know where I was going there. But Brian, good job. That brings you up 2-1. Man. All of these soundtracks, by the way, I've listened to, and they are good. Definitely take a gander at them. Take a listen. Awesome. All right.
Also, Thor High Heels has projects that are not soundtracks as well. So if you ever just want to hear like good bops, they have a bunch of those too, including ones devoted to different gemstones. So if you have a favorite birthstone, there's a bop for you.
A kid's bop?
If your kid has a birthstone, I suppose.
All right. We are going to our blind fight, and it is provided by none other than Justin. So thank you, Justin, for providing this one. All right, guys. So, PSVR 2 was showcased during the Sony State of Play. So, what dormant PlayStation IP needs to be revitalized through VR? Sean, we're going losers out. So, would you like to go first or second? Maybe need some time to think. I could vamp for a little bit. If you want, I could remind the listeners to listen to us on any podcatcher of choice. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe. Yeah, need a little time.
No. I've made my decision. I'm going to accept defeat here. And I think what I'm going to do instead is extend my hand to my opponent, Brian, and instead kind of reject that we have to fight each other at all. I think what should happen here is that we give you a question and you have to kind of pitch the best answer to make us agree on something.
I think that's a good idea. I think I'll reach across the aisle here. I think this is more of an ambush than a blind fight. You know, sometimes you get ambushed. That happens,
yeah, this
right?
is a little not blind enough. We've talked about resurrecting
someone
franchises.
Comes to the ring with a chair just behind the baby face in the group, especially when it's a bunch of heels. So, you know, sometimes you got to be ready for a bit of an ambush.
Yeah, I think we need to get I love these PlayStation questions, obviously very topical, but there's something much more topical for the space that we're in right now. It even kind of broaches the Sony thing, because of the what was that night game again? I forget about it.
Evernights.
Evernights, yeah. I've got romance on the brain, and I think like what you should do is get us to agree, because we are fighting right now. But I don't want to be. I want to be friends. I need you to pitch a ship to us that we both agree is the best one in video games.
Pitch a relationship?
Yeah.
What is this? What is going on?
A non-canon relationship of video game characters. Get us to agree on the best ship in video games.
Wait, what are we doing here?
You're pitching a question to you, Mike. It's time for you to get up off your pedestal.
I'm not on a pedestal.
Down here with us.
I'm just hosting a
You're
show.
You're on a pedestal.
I'm just hosting a show.
Now you're answering questions.
Or you can just concede defeat.
We can vamp.
Yeah,
we can vamp for you.
We can vamp.
I mean,
We can come up with ships, no problem.
Just tell me the Rogue Magneto of video games. I mean, come on.
The Rogue Magneto.
Yeah, huh?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my college friends' favorite comic ships for some reason.
Huh.
Wait, Rogue Magneto?
Weird choice.
They got together?
Weird choice for a lot of reasons.
No. Yeah, a lot of reasons. No, again, it's not canon. Yeah, it's not canon.
Wait,
Yeah.
so
That's what ships are about.
so you are taking over the podcast, and I am answering what the best relationship in video games is?
Yeah, like your
non-canon,
favorite,
right? So you
not,
can be
non-canon.
like,
Yeah.
you know, if we were talking no, not cartoons. What's the word? Commercials. You could be like, the best ship in commercials is clearly Kool-Aid Man and Chester Cheetah, right? That would clearly be some good energy.
Yeah. See, the thing is that, like, in gaming, and especially in queer gaming, and like queer watching media in general, is taking people that you know aren't actually supposed to be in a relationship, and knowing in your soul that even though the writers won't write it, it's supposed to be there. They're destined to be together. And in that spirit, we're pitching to you, what's the best one in video games?
What is the best relationship in video games? Non-canon.
Yep. What in your soul? Who should be together?
Who was like, these people should be a couple, even if they're in different series. Like,
Even if they're in different series?
yeah, no, it's often in different series, right?
Often. Yeah. If that's too much, like,
It can stay in
options
series
for
if that's,
you,
yeah.
You can be within a single game, you know?
You can even stick to a PlayStation franchise if you want to, keep it closer to that original question.
Okay. I don't know.
Do you need to vamp a bit so you can think a little bit?
Apparently.
Make sure if you're
Brian,
watching
who's your
on
favorite
YouTube,
ship? Let's give him a direction to start with. Like,
Yeah.
who's your favorite?
Oh, like my favorite?
Yeah,
Okay, oof. I think, my personal mind canon is that Dedue ends up in a relationship with Claude from Fire Emblem. I think that would be a great relationship that you cannot do in that game because Dedue, cannot join that house because he is devoted to a very sad emo boy with a lot of anger problems and possibly possessed. And so, like, in terms, like, in canon, like, not in canon, like, in setting ones, I think, like, a Dedue-Claude relationship would be super dope. 3 houses, in case that wasn't clear.
That is a game I would like to play. Oh, man. You guys put me on the spot here.
Blind fight.
Yeah. I am going to... Oh, boy. I wish I've finished It Takes Two and I could just answer that. Because right now I have not finished it, so I don't know the ending. And right now they're not the best couple in video gaming.
Sean, do you have one while Mike is still going through the Rolodex of characters?
You know, I just Googled to see if anyone else has thought about this, and they have. I've played a lot of Smash Bros. In my life, and I think just Samus and Peach, they've been around together on the table a lot. They've got a lot of like synchronicities with how they how they approach combat and how they walk through the subspace emissary together, and I think Samus and Peach would be a beautiful relationship. You know, Peach is kind of doing some cooking for whenever the few times Samus, so she can pack Samus some lunches as she goes out on her missions. Maybe a nice home cooked meal when she gets back. Sometimes Samus is bringing back a bunch of like artifacts and stuff from her various things, since Peach is always either in her castle or being kidnapped, and you can't really take souvenirs from Bowser's castle after the first couple times. Like, it's the same castle over and over. It gets kind of boring. But I think they got a good thing going.
All right, I think I have decided. I think I'm thinking Ryu Hayabusa from Ninja Gaiden
Nice,
with
nice.
Katana from Mortal Kombat. Yeah, I think that Ryu and they have a lot in common as far as abilities and stuff like that. So, super power couple. I think that Katana, her skill set in Mortal Kombat could fit into the kind of like beat 'em up, Devil May Cry like style of combat in in the Ninja Gaiden series. So, yeah, I guess I'm going with that. This is off rails.
Now, is this Katana while she's in one of the like timelines where she's evil? Is this just basic Katana?
No, this is the same Katana in the newer timeline where she is more of a good guy.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's right.
Yeah, I can see them working pretty well, trying to seal the darkness in various ways,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Back to back throwing shuriken, or fans in Katana's case.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I will accept this ship.
Oh, it seems like you got us. You got us in one, so
Yeah.
congratulations on that. I am moderately sorry for the ambush, but not that sorry.
Oh, man.
As we never get invited back again.
Never.
It
All
was
part of the plan.
off the rails, to be honest.
Too much
but...
guest solidarity here.
All right.
Never have two guests again.
That means Brian won. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I
You
won
guys could fight over
in the
it.
end.
Fight over it another time, but I hear that you guys are making up, so. All right. We listeners are going to go into the leaderboard section. And yes, Brian, I wrote this because all three of us are on the cast. And it is targeted, as you texted me earlier today. But top 5 indie games you need to play. Brian, what are your top 3?
Top 3. All right. I'm trying to think of ones also you guys aren't going to get because I feel like we'll have a lot of overlap. And I'm also trying not to be like hyper like what I've played recently, which can be a tendency with indie games, especially. And so I think one of the ones I'm going to put on there is Telling Lies / just kind of in general Half Mermaid productions. Telling Lies is the one that's on Game Pass, and so it's a bit easier for me to just put that out there because you can just play it. I can argue why later. I think I have to argue for Inscription just because it's me and I've been an aggressive Inscription proponent, even though that one is fairly recent. And then I think visual novels as a genre are a huge part of the indie scene. And so I think Heaven Will Be Mine is going to be the third one I put on there.
All right. Telling Lies, Inscription, and Google Docs corrected my typo. And Heaven Will Be Mine. You took Inscription from my list, so that's one from my board. Sean, top 3.
Well, the top... I've got 2 lists. I got the top games I need to play and the top games people should play. Which would you like?
The ones that people should play.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna go with Signs of the Sojourner.
Okay. Signs of the Sojourner.
Yeah. Terraria.
Okay.
feel like I have to say this last one, but no. If found, I'm gonna say, if found.
It found.
That's if found,
IF.
right?
If
IF.
Oh,
Yeah.
if
IF.
found.
If.
Okay.
If found.
All right. For me, definitely Tunic. I'm gonna be going more recent and more. Yeah, that what I played. So,
Yeah.
Tunic and I'm gonna do Slay the Spire. You took Inscription, so I gotta do my other favorite deck building game of all time, Slay the Spire. And then I think I would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't put Death's Door on there. So I really enjoyed Death's Door, and yeah. All right. Sean, what is your must-have on this list from your 3?
Signs of the Sojourner.
Okay. And what's that game about?
That game is you are you kind of run like a store in like a small town where like the setting of the universe is basically that like it's small towns are like kind of self-sufficient, but rely a lot on like trade routes, and you end up for reasons having to go out on like in a caravan, and it's a card game basically where all your interactions are like trying to communicate with people via the card system, which are just like symbols, and you have to like try to match your correct symbols with someone else in order to communicate effectively. And it gets hard, and every time you like play a match with somebody, you get one of their cards, so that like, hey, if you went to a new town, you don't know the language at all, so you're probably going to lose at first, because like, who's going to understand you? It's all about understanding. But then you like start getting cards from these other places, and then what happens when you get home? Like, have you committed so hard to understanding other people that you've kind of like drawn away from home or not? And it's like a short story that has multiple different endings depending on how you do. That kind of is really all about like, how do we communicate? What is it? Plus cards.
Plus cards.
Cards.
Brian, what's your must-have?
Mine's going to be Heaven Will Be Mine, in part because it's the only real, at least again, I don't know, there's a couple of things I don't know super well, but it's the only real like visual novel as far as I know on this list. I don't know if found, so if that's a visual novel, I apologize. And I think visual novels are such a key part of the indie space for a couple reasons. One, the barrier of entry to create one is way lower than most genres because you can use RenP to really easily program and write them. And so because of that, you get a lot of voices that you don't see as often in game dev in visual novel writing. And Heaven Will Be Mine is a great example of that. It is in the queer game scene, like Heaven Will Be Mine is probably one of the most significant, I think, in probably the last 10 years. And I think it's pretty safe to make that claim, even though it's a huge one. It's by a dev group called Bad Girl Games. Heaven Will Be Mine is a visual novel about mechs and flirting, fundamentally. It is a game asking really interesting questions about what futures could look like in queer or even general spaces. Right? Like, what does a better future look like is the fundamental question, and also who do you flirt with? Those are like the two major questions kind of asked throughout the game. It is generally queer femme for the majority of the characters, and so again, it is a visual novel trying to tell stories you just don't hear in games, right? In part because a lot of big games aren't going to ask questions about the future to that level. And the kind of possibilities that game imagines are not the kind of possibilities you see imagined in most games. Because they are fundamentally queer, they are fundamentally focused on justice and equality in a way that, or just incomprehensibility, one of them. And so I think for those reasons, I'd be doing the community a disservice by not having something like Heaven Will Be Mine in my, like, has to stay here.
Awesome. All right, we got 2 on the board. Trying to think if I like Death's Door more than Tunic. And I think I do. I think the reason why I do is because Death's Door, there were times where you felt a little bit more powerful, and I like video games where you do have a moment where like you can just mow through things, and I like those overpowered sections, and so with Tunic was a lot more difficult than Death's Door, and I'm okay with that. I loved Tunic to death, but ultimately I think Death's Door is just more approachable, and I think that it is such a tight and wonderful world and experience. So I'm putting on Death's Door. Okay, are we kind of in agreement that, and I've already typed it, but all 3 of us Inscription, right? Like,
I think out of what's here, I think for me at least it's a big one. In part because like the only thing that could compete with Inscription for me is the quote-unquote original deck builder game that I'm having a brain fart on the name of and did not update on my phone for some reason.
Slay the Spire.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Slay the Spire. But I think Inscription's doing more interesting things for me, and so I'd put it higher.
Sean?
Yeah,
I agree.
Okay.
Obviously I've played a ton more Slay the Spire, but Inscription adds a lot. And hopefully will be like the next Slay the Spire, like base that Slay the Spire was. I'm like, what can you do with these things?
Just a quick question. Have you played Casey's mod at all for it? Have you kind of messed with that mode?
I have.
I haven't yet.
Yeah.
I haven't.
The secret boss is something,
I haven't played it
by
a
the
lot.
way.
I haven't played it with its 1.0 release.
Okay.
I played it in beta.
You can get a special secret boss now instead of Leshy at the end that you can fight that is something, it is fair to say.
I should revisit that game. Inscription's phenomenal. I mean, we already have a kind of like a deck builder in Inscription. Do you guys want to just like duke it out and put something else on here? Or?
Yeah, I can make an argument for Telling Lies, actually. I think I can make a pretty impassioned argument for that.
Go for it.
So Telling Lies is a Half Mermaid Games. You would also potentially know Her Story, or Immortality is the new one they have coming out. They are a game in which, I just actually mentioned playing Her Story just last week. They're games in which you are doing essentially database work. So you're going through databases of video clips, attempting to find answers to a question. In Her Story, it was basically, is the female protagonist a murderer? For Telling Lies, the question is, what happened that caused this eco group deemed as terrorists to get caught? And so they're doing very fundamentally different things with how you tell stories, and also implicitly actually giving you really helpful skills for both database work and for like kind of knowing how to work on the internet with keywords, to the point where like groups that actually do like online research and journalism use like Her Story and Telling Lies actually as like part of their education programs, because it does that good of a job actually giving you those skills that you use for like, oh, we found out that. So whenever you find out, you hear stories like, oh, we caught this Nazi that's been hiding in Chile for like 80 years. The group that like is usually the one finding those people actually uses Her Story and like Telling Lies to like build those skills. And for the people that do that journalism work. And I don't think there is another indie game that has had real world implications and real world effects in that same way. On top of that, I think Sam Barlow / Half Mermaid have done a really interesting job bringing back like video clip games, which aside from their work, and I do want to give credit, to like, Alan Wake and those kind of games that used actual real world video clips as well. But for all intents and purposes, that usage in video games had all but died before they kind of brought it back.
That's very interesting. Anything else that you see? I mean, I would argue for Tunic or Slay the Spire, but we kind of got a Tunic like and Death's Door on there, and we got a Slay the Spire in there. So
yeah, I think Tunic is covered by, like, I wouldn't say Tunic is covered entirely by Death's Door, but I think it is covered by the combination of Death's Door and Inscription, because like the added thing to Tunic that I would say Death's Door doesn't have is that whole thing with the manual and like the language thing going on there on top of the basic game. But I think Inscription kind of covers that sort of genre. I was ready to make a whole and passion thing for If Found, but I think Brian told me just there about telling lies. Like, my thing about If Found was that it's like telling a deeply personal story with a mechanic that is interesting, where you're only like erasing, you're like kind of erasing everything, but mainly your diary, telling the story of returning home, which is a big indie thing. But then it having a mechanic that mostly works, but like kind of has one where like I definitely didn't like it at all. But I think the like using a game as like a future tool for stuff with telling lies is more compelling to me.
All right, then we are in agreement. Telling Lies is on there. All right, top 5 indie games you need to play right now, unless you're driving. Signs of the Sojourner, Heaven Will Be Mine, Death's Door, Inscription, and Telling Lies. Well, listeners, that has been...
There's an asterisk. There's an asterisk on this list. I have been assuming that everyone has already played Outer Wilds, as they should have. Just making that assumption. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I'll put Outer Wilds as number 6. I'm cool with that.
That's honestly fair. I honestly assumed one of you would say Outer Wilds, so I didn't.
It's in the Stop the Car tier. It's in the Stop the Car tier. That's why I couldn't make this list. You're gonna play it.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, play Outer Wilds. It's phenomenal. Listeners, this has been Test Your Might 76, I believe. Wow, I don't update the episode title on our outline ever, apparently. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. It's been a blast. Once again, please leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing. Apple iTunes definitely is the best way to do that. So if you're listening there, just leave a quick review, quick rating. Helps us in the algorithm and stuff. It would honestly greatly benefit our show. So appreciate you in advance if you do that. Spotify, you can rate us on the star system on mobile only. If you're on YouTube, please like, comment, and especially subscribe. We're on the road to 100 subscribers, so we could get our custom link. You can follow me at Stay at Home Gamer on Twitter. The O in home is a 0. You can follow What the Fun Pod on Twitter as well, or find all of us there. And if you just want to let us know how we're doing, you could also email us at whatthefunpodcast@gmail.com. For Brian, for Sean, my name is Mike. This has been Test Your Might. We will catch you guys later. Bye.